Good afternoon and welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes and I'm so glad you have chosen to spend your afternoon with us here today. We've got a great program in store for you, but before we start, for those of you who are watching us for the first time, I thought I'd share a little bit about who we are and what we're about. And so, welcome. Here at the Center for Spiritual Living Ocala, we have these values that are our guideposts at the center. And at the top of that list is spiritual growth and practice. It's the reason we come together. It's what we are here to do, to grow and to learn together in spiritual community. We value love and we value appreciation. We value community. We've got an awesome, diverse community of people that meets now online, but also in person soon, and in small classes that we're getting started up again. We value freedom. We value creativity, health and wholeness, generosity, and financial well-being. And our mission at the Center for Spiritual Living is to provide spiritual tools for personal and global transformation. And that's the same as the mission of the larger organization. We are just one of many centers for spiritual living that are located all throughout the United States and Canada and the rest of the world. And our purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. Our vision is a world that works for everyone. And before I tell you about our guest, I'm going to invite our practitioner, Donna Davis, into the stream.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, and do a little invocation for us, if you wouldn't mind, Donna.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much.
Well, I invite you now to just take a deep breath with me. Get settled down into your seat, allowing your body to be supported by the structure that you're sitting on. It is from this place of calm and peace and connection that I recognize the allness of the One. That this universal life energy is everywhere. It is present in all things and around all things. It is perfection. I know that because this life principle is perfection, and the same is true for me, that I sit in this space of perfection. All my experiences that come to me, everything that I go through, it still does not change the fact that I am sitting and living and breathing perfection. I know that same is true for everybody in the sound of my voice. I know that it is true for Reverend Veronica today and Reverend Cindy, as they have a divine conversation today. And so it's from that place of oneness and connection that I say thank you. My heart is open with gratitude to receive all the good that is mine. And I release it into the law, knowing that it's already done, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Donna. I want to, the divine perfection, right? With the babies in the background and the doors slam, like it's just life, right? Kids and just really perfect for our guest today because she works with children. So just how awesome that is. That it's all part of life and all part of the divine perfection. Yeah.
Some of the babies.
What's that?
I'm gonna go join the babies and watch y'all on YouTube.
All right.
Watching us.
All right. We'll see you later.
All right.
Bye, Donna. All right, that's so fun. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our guest today, Reverend Veronica Valles. is a dynamic peace educator, mindfulness trainer, facilitator, speaker, author, artist, and ordained minister with Centers for Spiritual Living. She brings her peace tools to schools and communities through innovative and original programs as her focus ministry. You know, there are folks in Centers for Spiritual Living that are in all walks of life, and their ministries reflect that. And I'm really excited to bring Veronica on board because we have that commonality and that interest in peace building and peace educating. And Veronica has been doing it for some years. She has taught thousands of students in Dallas Independent School District, and she's a community partner in her East Dallas neighborhood. And she's bringing this teaching to the secular world, to children, and is really being a part of that shift that's changing the world. And I'm just so excited to have her join us. And let me bring you on in, Veronica. Welcome.
Hello, Reverend Cindy.
Yes, thank you so much for saying yes.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. And
Yeah.
how perfect to have the child in the door. I'm like, oh, I love
Wasn't
that
it?
people. It was just great. And Dawn was just like perfectly in, her flow.
Exactly. We love kids. We know kids, and that's life. That's just
Yeah, they
life.
got to be kids. So that was beautiful.
Yeah, so awesome. So I want people to know a little bit about who you are, and I don't know. Let's start. So how did you come into Science of Mind?
Well, let's see if I can do this in very succinctly. So I actually found Science of Mind because of Reverend Michael Beckwith. Agape in Los Angeles. I found, when they were in Culver City, but I never immersed myself in the teachings. And then I was working as a casting director of extras, and a friend of mine was
Casting director, you said?
And where?
A casting director?
Yeah, I was a cast director of extras. So I worked like anybody not talking the film industry, our company hired. And a friend of mine's mother was like donating books to the Bodhi Tree bookstore. And she's like, do you want this book? And it was that thick 50th anniversary edition of Science of Mind. And I never read it. And then long story short, I ended up getting sick at 30, coming home, and then slowly started reading the book, had the Science of Mind magazine. And then it took 10 years, but when I finally had the strength and that inner, like, I've got to go, I found Center for Spiritual Living Dallas. And that was the pivot point for my life to dive deep into these teachings. I was a part of the community through 2014 when I licensed. And so it was like, I got a taste of it over here at Agape. But, if I look at my life, my journey would have been very different had I immersed myself in the teachings. I would have probably ended up being the film director that I wanted to be. Instead, Spirit's like, we got a plan for you. So just trust, So I've been in it for a long time and just grateful for the teachings, the principles, and that everything that people do in this movement, just for a world that works for everyone. That's my vision.
Yeah. So you were in California then, and then you ended up in Dallas.
I sure did, because I got sick at 30. Yeah, I got sick at 30, and at 34, I didn't know it was going to take me 10 years to get well. I was told I'd never be well, but at 34, I came home, which brought me to my nieces and nephews, which is part of my journey also as a peace educator and being in the schools, because my experience with my nieces and nephews as most favorite aunt literally informs the way that I show up in a school. I show up with love and kindness and that favorite aunt energy. But yeah, it was just not on my agenda, but a higher spirit agenda to bring me back home.
Yeah. So, most people think of ministers as just, pulpit, what we do from the pulpit, right? Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon and, your Wednesdays and whatever, but just basically attached to a center or a church. So your ministry is very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I had every intention of being a pulpit minister and had no idea that this was in store for me. And when it came time for licensing and I didn't have a ministry, I literally asked Spirits, like, well, what do you want me to do? And I had been doing I was community service director at CSL Dallas for 7 years and worked with the schools. And we brought in Azim Kamisa for Season for Peace and Nonviolence. And that's when in 2007, I really got to dive deep into peace. And I'd always had that seed of peace in my heart as a child. And so being that community service director kind of like informed what was going to be my ministry without knowing it. And what I heard was teach children mindfulness, bring secular tools, peace tools to schools. Because what do? We invite people into our communities. People, find these teachings and these tools, their life transforms, but we don't give like basic skill sets for social emotional intelligence to children that could actually transform their lives and lead deeper lives. So when I heard that, I just listened. I was guided the whole way and found one teacher one classroom, 20 kids that I worked with for a year with my friend Tashi, and then slowly evolved to where I was like just reaching, many schools in my primary school and, bringing pre-K through 5th grade elementary students mindfulness skill sets.
Yeah. We have so many intersections, you and I, commonalities.
Yeah.
When you mentioned Azim Khamiza, his story was pivotal for me in this idea of peace building and taking an active role. I don't know if you want to share about him, his life, his story.
I'm gonna let you share.
You might not know.
I want to hear how you found him because of 2007 was a 10-year anniversary for Season for Peace and Nonviolence. We received a grant. So we had a team of 25. That's how we brought him to Dallas to key campuses. And he was transformative. And we brought him the year later, and he spoke to 160 counselors, 5,000 kids. I'd like to hear your story, unless you because he's so powerful to me. And I always am intrigued when people get to know him and be inspired by him.
Yeah, no, my inspiration came through teaching forgiveness through a social emotional learning program. And I was just looking for resources for great stories, short little snips and clips of people's lives and who had done extraordinary acts of forgiveness. And his was one of those stories. His son was a pizza delivery boy in college and was shot. I think his son was only 21, 22 years old. And he was shot by a 14-year-old kid as a part of a gang riot, and the 14-year-old ended up going to prison in California.
Yes.
And so Mr. Khamiza is a Muslim. And so he talks about that whole experience of having lost his son and his deep grieving and pain and, and also forgiveness. Yes. Forgiveness is a huge part of his faith. So he was able to forgive Tony. I can't remember his last name.
Yes, Tony Hicks. Yeah.
Tony Hicks. Yes. And then became good friends with Tony's grandfather, and they created a foundation together, and they go and they teach like they did in Dallas. I don't think we have had him here where I live in Florida, but I'd love to bring him to share the story.
Powerful. And when he shares his story, and especially we took him to key campuses where there's a lot of gang activity, and this one teacher came up to him at W.W. Samuel High School, and he goes, "Did you see that?" He goes, because one, these kids are living in traumatic life situations to begin with, and they feel like they don't have an alternative. And what Azim is providing is a different route, through the power of healing and forgiveness, but also he's wanting kids to not go through the prison route, but really to find their life route. But this one teacher's like, these guys were dropping their head, like they were taken in the story. They're like, how could this man forgive the kid that killed his son and then invite him to be a part of the foundation, which back then was years away, which he does now. And so just his Sufi Muslim faith really informed his ability to every day to practice forgiveness, and then to bring this out to students and prisoners so that they can actually either choose a different life or be reformed so they can have the life that they deserve.
Yeah, it's beautiful work.
Yeah.
I have shared his story in the prison. I've been working there for 5 years as a volunteer. I know you have started your ministry volunteering.
Oh yeah.
In schools, and and I'm volunteering as well in the prisons. And there's just so many of the men, as they learn these principles of social emotional healing and what to do with their anger, and what it means to belong versus fitting in, and empathy and respect, and all these things that were never taught in school. And so many of them were never taught at home either.
Exactly. Father Gregory Boyle, who I met at the Momentous Institute, Homeboy Industries, his books are just, beautiful. Embarking to the Choir. It's like you get the background of the trauma that these men and women have experienced. He goes, I'm not excusing what they did. He goes, but what I'm saying is we have to create belonging and connection and love to transform. And when you get underneath it all, that's what everybody wants. And to understand empathy and compassion and connection, but to also give them the tools, like you said, like, how do I navigate this? Especially, I work with students from all ranges, all socioeconomic, different cultures, and just to understand your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions, and then what's happening to your brain, and then have the ability then to literally calm, respond, reconnect, and redirect has probably been the most profound thing I've ever experienced myself and witnessed, and how these tools really have empowered kids, how you see the light turn on in their eye. Oh, there's a different way. So I'm a huge advocate that peace tools in schools is essential, and yet I also that we need to provide these for adults too, because like my kiddos will go in some schools go home to an environment that is toxic or traumatic or stressful, and it's very challenging for them.
Right, right. Yeah, and it's not to cast blame on anybody either. It's just that none of us were taught these tools.
Exactly. And I'm
Right.
talking all of us across the board. I have 2 degrees from the University of Texas in Austin. One's a communications degree. Well, I can tell you a good story and I can write you a good script, but I could never communicate effectively through conflict till I reached Center for Spiritual Living Dallas and took conflict resolution classes, nonviolent communication, then came across Rita Marie Johnson's The Connection Practice, which is empathy and insight, so heart math and nonviolent communication. And so, yeah, imagine a world where we have these skill sets and we can navigate through the difficult emotions, can meet in the present moment in conversations from our heart. So wisdom's leading. Because it doesn't mean we're going to be sitting around singing Kumbaya all day long. We're different personalities. Conflict is just 2 opposing ideas, but it doesn't have to be chaotic. And we've seen such tremendous growth. Like in the schools, we started seeing the numbers, of referrals to the assistant principal go down, because we're giving kids the tools how to name your emotion. What's the trigger? What's really behind that? And then how to tame it. And then what strategies can you use then to mindfully, move forward with it?
Yeah. Can you tell, what kind of stuff do you do? Tell me, give me a typical day.
Typical day. So, typical day is I just finished 5 years at my primary school, Hexter Elementary, where we had the biggest transformation.
Oh, you're right. There are no typical days now that we're in COVID. So
That's it. We're going to a typical day of pre-COVID, but I would be at school by 7:15. And Hexter is very unique because we would have a student announcement team, and we would have 4th and 5th graders do the announcements. But we brought in, and I think it was 216, where after I trained the classrooms and the teachers how to anchor in their mindful body. So we literally would have the student lead the mindful minute, where everybody, would anchor in their hand on their heart and their belly. They focus on the breath. And for 1 minute, we would sit in mindful breathing. All right. That's how the school starts the day. And then classes would move into their community circles. And in the community circle, a student would once again anchor in the mindful breathing, for the class. I would come in with different practices, and then throughout the day, based on all the different social emotional awareness competencies. And then at lunch, we would have 5 minutes of mindful eating. So the lights would be turned down low. We'd have solfeggio frequency music playing, and the kids would literally just eat in silence and mindfully be present. And then after that, they'd have their mindful social time. And then we would have kids at the PTA meeting lead the mindful breathing. So it was incorporated in the whole culture. We had a mindfulness room, and the little itty bitty ones, kindergarten, 1st grade, would have to come with me if they needed some extra, calm. But kids would literally come into this room where we had kinesthetic stuff, mandalas, the whiteboard, little soft lighting, where they could literally recognize and name their feelings and spend, several minutes just calming, and then head back to class. So a typical day was always revolving about between teaching and then using the tools to help any, student that was dysregulated, coaching teachers, working with them with nonviolent communication, building that bridge of trust with the principal and the teachers, with conscious conversations. But a typical lesson, let's just do, I should have gotten a bowl. Let me get a bowl. We're going to do an anchor. Okay. You want to do an anchor?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I've got all these bowls over here. So my students would actually lead this. So in mindfulness, so I'll give everybody a mindful lesson. So if you ever want to do, if your teachers do with your kids, but what we know to be what's present is our breath and our body. Our mind wanders, okay? And so what we're doing is we're just trying to train and focus and just know that there's a natural that our mind's going to wander. But when we connect with our body and we connect with our breath, like an anchor, we can bring ourselves present. So with the kids, we say our head, our heart, our hands, and our body all work together for learning. So right hand goes on your heart, left hand on your body. This is your mindful body. Then we breathe in through the nose and then out through that mouth. That slow circular breath, one, tells your brain that everything's okay, but it starts to dial down your nervous system. What I do, if I'm leading it, I'll ring the bell, but I always have a student lead it. So I'll ring the bell 3 times, Cindy, and anybody else who's watching. So you're connecting in your body. You're focused on that deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, and just allowing yourself to settle into the moment. And then we'll just sit for a few beats. And then anchoring in that space brings you completely present, but it's also dialing down the nervous system just for a little break, all right? So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. Anybody who's watching, you're in your mindful bodies. We're going to do 3 breaths as our anchor. Breathing in. And then as you breathe out from your mouth, just allow yourself to exhale just a little bit longer than your inhalation. Take another deep breath in, breathe in. And just noticing how your body feels. Just breathe out any sensations, energy that's there lingering. Breathing in. And as you breathe out, keeping your eyes closed just for a moment, for a couple of breaths, just notice the air coming in through your nose. And notice how it feels as you exhale. And with every breath, just allow yourself just to settle into this moment. Your thoughts are like clouds. Breathing in. Breathing out. And let us focus on our hearts. Bring some gratitude for this day. Breathe in. Breathe out. And when you hear the sound of my bell, I invite you then to slowly open your eyes and just notice how you feel. And that's how we start our day. So imagine 600 students. You know, of course, you're going to have kids that are moving around the classroom, but most teachers were really great about, you'd walk by, like my former principal walked by, and you'd have kindergartners sitting there in their mindful body breathing, getting ready for the day. Yeah. So I would just bring in different practices for, you know, their breath as their anchor, as for self-regulation and self-management, how to listen, how to connect in heartfulness with each other, understanding their emotions and their thoughts and how to name them, to tame them, and how difficult emotions aren't bad. They're just difficult. And then really my thing is kindness, compassion, and empathy and connection. So 4th and 5th graders got a lot of practices where we did a lot of different things so they can connect with each other, to get to know each other. Like one practice was 3 things about me. You know, they had to write 3 things about themselves that nobody would know about that are positive. And then they literally went person to person connecting. And then when we put the cards on the floor, we created a mandala. So it showed that we're interconnected and everybody belongs. I take out one card, then the mandala is, you know, incomplete, you know, and so they understood that they all belong. So it was powerful. For me, it's been the most powerful 6 years, and it's been the most challenging since COVID to not be with my kids in person.
Yeah.
To not, you know, we had some triplet girls who lost their mother to COVID-19, and to not be able to be there for them was just heartbreaking.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but that's what I get to do. I bring in these tools. I coach teachers. I coach principals. I bring in the nonviolent communication. I really want to build a culture, a community, you know, that's mindful and that we're able to navigate, you know, and speak what we need and build that trust and empathy. And because, you know, I share with the kids, it's we can navigate what's going on in here. It won't get projected out. And if we can name what we need or ask for what we need, you know, we can build that relationship and connection with our community, which is powerful.
Yeah. Well, what you did requires so much buy-in, you know, from teachers, from administration.
Oh, yeah.
That's just incredible. You a one-woman show?
one woman show, and I'll be real honest. The principal that I had, it was such a loss when she left the school, because it was like a divine appointment with her. We innately connected and trusted each other, and it took 3 years to build the culture and transform it. So for the population that we have, and an increase in the STAR exams, it's like 2.8 is considered successful. Well, we had 8.3. And I did it organically, but it did take finding the key stakeholders, the key teachers who are willing to learn, willing to practice, a principal who was willing to stumble and navigate, but just like so believed in it. And then to slowly, the parents are understanding like how powerful it's been for their kids. And so it was like, I'm writing a book on it. It takes time to build that culture. And so my consistency and coming in as a community partner, so I didn't have to deal with bureaucracy. So that's what made this so powerful. And then having an administrator who was on board, made a huge difference, as opposed to other schools where I'd work with teachers in classrooms and we'd see, what happened, but the whole school didn't transform. So yeah, it takes a lot of buy-in. You have to build trust. People are like, well, who's this hippie chick? And then, but I was consistent, and I was kind, and I was loving. And then when I spent a year as a peace educator, I really built that trust, know? And so, so it's powerful. So I see this as a position, like a visionary position, that my goal is that every school eventually has a Miss Veronica.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So a couple of things. For one, the hippie chick, right? Because I've been accused of that as well. But we know that this stuff there's science behind it.
There's science behind it. That's exactly it. Even though I am a hippie chick, but there is science. And so with secular mindfulness, I always point it back to the science, to anybody. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. So one of the keys, I think, and I wanted to bring this out in the little breathing exercise you just did with us, that we breathe in, let's say for a count of 4, and breathe out for 8.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that, right? So you're breathing out longer than you're breathing in.
Yeah.
And that's to calm the parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah. It kicks in the parasympathetic nervous system. So there's various, like there's a 5-5 heart coherence one. There's the 4-8. There's a 4-7-9, 4-7-8 to stop anxiety. But it literally tells your brain everything's okay right now. It kicks in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the brakes. So we've got the sympathetic, which is the gas. We need both the gas and the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
The inhale actually starts turning on the sympathetic, but it's that long exhale,
Right.
But the science behind it, and then because you're physically experiencing it, it's not just a woo-woo thing. It's like, oh, I actually do notice I'm feeling a little bit calmer,
Yeah. Because if you think about it, when you're worked up, it's the opposite, right? Your in breath is longer than your out breath.
Yeah. Well, and you're actually you're breathing shallow, and your brain is flipped. So there's no conversation to be had when someone's in that, what we call flipping your lid, the amygdala. It's the breath. It's the connect and breathe. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, for the people who think this is all woo-woo, it's like, no, it's not. It's real. Try it, when you feel yourself getting worked up, that this stuff really does work.
And because it's so new, and I just did this heart math training, and they were talking about how their baseline can be so used to stress that it's so abnormal to feel peace. And that the instructor's like, so just build it slowly, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So you're building a healthier baseline, because people aren't used to it. They're used to the stress and the, multitasking, which I just cannot do, and I don't think it's actually good for us to do. But yeah, it's that building those skill sets, and then the more you cultivate it, then you realize, yeah, I'm noticing a shift in how I'm responding instead of reacting. I'm noticing that, yeah, I got upset, but I didn't scream. I actually took a pause. And then when you make a mistake, you forgive yourself, saying, but I'm working on it.
That is such a key, right? One of the things for me, to respond rather than react.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the Viktor Frankl quote, between stimulus and response, there is a space.
Yes.
And in that space, our power to choose.
Yes.
And our choice is our freedom and our growth.
Exactly.
So I think mindfulness to me expands the space between what happens and what you do about it.
Yes. And to understand. So like when we teach emotions, I do this like a Happify video, red wolf, blue wolf. Red wolf are difficult emotions, blue wolf are positive. And the grandmother is like, talking to the grandchild. She's like, which wolf are you going to feed? But when I teach the kids, I go, red wolf emotions, anger, frustration, annoyance, they're not bad. They're signals. They're signals and a nonviolent communication of unmet needs.
Right.
But my brain is in fight, flight, or fright. And so I'm going to say something, do something, fist or feet, and then I'm going to regret it. It's noticing what this feels like. So we do an exercise where we draw what would the energy look like, and then using the breath as a superpower to connect and calm. And you build the practice. So with the assistant principal, the new one, I said for every, so if a fifth grader is having gotten to a fight, I go, you didn't see the 10 times before that he actually used the skill sets, And so it's that reminder that, we have these human moments, but that we build the skill set. So then we also are building resilience. It's a practice. It's not about being perfect. It's a practice.
It's progress, not perfection.
Yes, exactly. And then when you flip, you're responsible. It's like, I flip my lid and you're accountable. And then that's where you meet in that moment.
I love that, because that's one of the metaphors that I use too, right? Is the brain. For those who've not seen the flip lid,
Yeah.
This is your brain stem, right? This is the stuff that's all your automatic. You don't have to think about your breath or your heart rate, any of that. And then your midbrain is your fight, flight, or freeze. And then this is your thinking brain. And what happens when you get set off in that fight, flight, or freeze, they call it flipping your lid. And it's like the thinking part of your brain and the emotional part of your brain are no longer in communication.
Yeah. Door shut.
Yes. And we've all had that experience. I know I have, raising my kids, where your lid is flipped, you're set into that mode, and all of a sudden you can't even find the words. The kid is right in front of you. And I don't know if you're Jason or Jessica or I go through the whole list of names. Or else you can't even get a name out. Like, you forget how to speak.
Yeah. Yes, exactly, because it does. The amygdala is that part of the brain that is wired to keep you safe. We call it the security guard. And it shuts the door to the hippocampus, the memory, and the prefrontal cortex, the wise leader. And so until you're able to that's why we do the practice. So in the moment, then it's like, oh, I'm flipping. Oh, wait a minute, let me breathe. So then you can get to that place of okay, I gotta calm so I can respond. But it's building that practice. And when kids understand, okay, my brain's reacting. Like when it comes to testing, I go, I always say, can this piece of paper bite you? They're like, no. I go, because they get so afraid of the test. I go, the test is not a tiger, but my brain thinks it is because it's feeling like your emotions are starting to stir. Just breathe.
Yeah.
Just breathe,
It's amazing. I was listening to a podcast the other day talking about physical pain and emotional pain and how the same part of the brain fires.
Yeah.
Whether you're in emotional pain or actual physical pain.
Yeah.
That just blows my mind. Your mind doesn't know the difference.
It doesn't know the difference. Same thing with a happy memory. So it doesn't know, we don't want to live in the past, but the Mind Up curriculum is a happy mini movie memory. And that the brain doesn't know that what you're thinking about, whether it's happening right now or it's a memory, it will release dopamine. So that's why we're trying to build that bridge to the prefrontal cortex, pause into if I'm having a stressful moment, I breathe, I think about something that makes me happy, my brain releases this neurotransmitter, then suddenly I feel much better. And the science is, so I went from ministerial school like you to I had to jump into neuroscience, and it's fascinating. And I bring it very simple in schools, but it's fascinating when you understand the complexities and yet the simplicity of the practice, yet you got to practice. So in that moment when you are triggered, it's like pause, breathe, step back,
Exactly. I think I told you I had COVID.
Really? No.
I got COVID in August, and I was just so sick. And thank God it never got into my lungs, but I spent that time, I couldn't watch TV because I couldn't focus enough. I couldn't read. I couldn't do anything, just laid in bed. But I would stare out the window and just look at the trees and breathe and practice conscious breathing.
Yeah.
And I think it's what kept it from even going into my lungs.
Probably, yeah.
But we forget, I think, because it's so we take it for granted, right? Your breath is always here. You don't have to think about it. That we have everything we need right here to self-regulate.
That's exactly it, and keeping it so simple. Because with the kids, we do that, breathe shallow. You're stressed out. balloon belly breath. Okay, that's how, you're knowing that you're getting not only just the oxygen, but you're keeping that your system in just like a harmonized way. And that there's a time when, like, even if you're super duper excited, I still need to calm because I got to learn math, but that we have these simple tools right here. And it's just like when I played basketball in high school, we practiced, and I hated line drills. You had to run from line to line in under a minute, and it was exhausting. But boy, when you got in a game and you needed to make that layup to win the game, oh, that's why we do the line drills. So we
Right.
build that resilience and we build that muscle with the practice.
Exactly.
So that when those moments come, because no one has it on your itinerary. At 10:34 tomorrow, someone's going to really piss you off. You better make sure you've been doing your mindful breathing, because you're not going to be responding.
I love it. I love it. So true. So true.
I do tell people, I am not a saint. Trust me, it is a practice, because COVID has been very challenging on so many levels. And then being alone, and my family's close by, and having just that time for, what is mine to do? And it's like, mine to do right now is prayer and being present for my teachers and my students, like we did online in the spring. And just to bring that heartfulness out into the world, because we need that extra love.
Oh, we do so much. I want to show people. I saw the video on your website. I'm going to see if I can share my screen and show it. Let's see. Chrome tab.
My kiddos.
Yes, I think. Let me see if I can. Where is it? Here we go. I wanted people to see this. Okay, are you seeing the screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me go ahead and play it.
Congratulations, Miss B, and thank you for your last 4 years of service to our school. You are an absolute joy and delight, and you bring so much energy and spark of life to our school and our school community and our kids and our teachers. We couldn't do what we do at Hexter without you. Congratulations, Miss B.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So that was a great surprise to win the 2018-2019 Volunteer of the Year for Classroom Support, because I come in as a community partner. And there's a funny story. So that was my key principal, Dr. Jackson. And I had on so there was a parent, Kim Strange, who makes t-shirts. So she made a Mindfulness Matters red one for me. And then Dr. Jackson had on the purple one that day, because I had no idea. All right. So they told her, but I wouldn't know till the actual ceremony. I'm like, you have your mindfulness shirt on too? And she's like, oh my God, just leave. They had to do that video. Yeah, so you got to see some of my kids. So those two girls, they were in kindergarten. All right, when I took that photograph. So I train kids from pre-K through 5th grade. But if you go to the Victor H. Hexter Elementary Facebook page and you go under videos, you can scroll down and see some videos of my kids leading mindfulness practices from pre-K, 3rd graders talking about an experience, my bilingual class that was talking about how mindfulness really supported them. And for me, that's been the greatest gift. And, to be able to give these tools for them, to plant these seeds. Dr. Jackson, I would say, we're planting seeds in the garden of good. When she left last year, it was just heartbreaking, because we had like a 10-year plan, but she needed to move on and move closer to home. But we did good work. We did really great work. So these kids have these tools. I still, I see them when I go around the neighborhood and shopping, and my teachers there are carrying on with the social emotional learning committee, which is the whole point, is to empower teachers and to, really make it that fabric of a school within the school. So yeah, I was like, yay, I love my little kids. I'm a favorite aunt. I have 7 nieces and nephews, and each one with such different personalities, and like my one niece who struggled with dyslexia, my older nephew who was so painfully shy, my other niece who was just like, should run as a politician because she talked incessantly, and I would just see these personalities, and my other niece who's a perfectionist and would stress herself out. And so I would come in with heartfulness and joy and love. I'm on the floor in a circle. You saw that picture. I'm on the floor with them, eye to eye, and just really to empower them so that they can have their dreams and then make those dreams their reality. That's really why I give them these skill sets. I don't do it for the data. I don't care about research and data. It's there. I do it for their well-being, because I believe we all deserve to live our best lives. So, oh, thank you for showing that. I miss those kids.
So how do we replicate your efforts? I mean, how do we have Miss Veronicas in every school across the country?
I am working on that. So I am working on a book. I've got 200 pages, but I'm also, I've put together, and I've reached out to one university. I haven't heard back from them, but, I truly want to create, and I'm going to say it publicly so people can just support it in prayer. With the background that you and I have with our Masters of Consciousness studies, my principal's like, wow, like I've never met anybody with all that you have, the consciousness, the pastoral care, the background in your peace modalities. And I want to create like a certification program so that literally like a year-long program so that people get these tools, and then also the consciousness or the pastoral care, and that every school has a peace educator, that it becomes the fabric. Because what made it different for Hexer was when for 1 year, for 2018, 2019, I only focused on that school, and I was there full-time in a volunteer position as a peace educator. I'm like, this is an experiment. And I worked with teachers, and I worked with kids, and I would even work with parents. And we saw how phenomenal that was, And so I really am holding the vision, not only with the book, but with trainings, but also that I can partner with a larger, really, and, I might reach out to Centers for Spiritual Living, but I really also want a secular organization like the University of North Texas, who I reach out to, that we have teachers being trained with this, that we have people who come in to be peace educators, that in like the restorative justice that you do. I'm in a training for that, and that we have, because I have that nonviolent communication, heart math, connection practice, mindfulness. I just have the basics of restorative justice, but that we have this one person who's there for everybody, because the counselor in schools sometimes don't even get to counsel because they're so busy doing the administrative stuff with testing and all that, but that everybody from the principal to the assistant principal to the counselor to the kids to the parents are supported by a peace educator. That's my big vision. That's my pie in the sky, where there's all these Miss Veronicas in their own unique way. Like everybody brings it in their way. Mindful Schools does an amazing job, but no one has done it with the background that I have. And that's what I want to see more of, that, and the consciousness and the pastoral care, because I would have, like, we had a 5th grader and a 2nd grader whose father had a heart attack and died. And they called me in that next morning, like, we need you to come into class. And we sat in circle, and those pastoral care skill sets were right there in full use. And I was so grateful to Dr. Patty Lukabach and the training I got, through our ministerial training. So we'll see. So just let's hold the vision, and that there are a lot of people that are moving in with mindfulness, which is phenomenal, and restorative justice, like, what you're bringing in, Cindy, and all, the work that you do with the prisons, and that we have it from kids all through school, but also for adults. And I don't know, I just hold that, like, there's this part of me that truly believes that. I've believed that since I was a child, that we can have this. Like, I truly believe that it's possible.
I put your URL down here, sacredlivingdallas.org, for people that might want to check it out, because you said your volunteer position at the school, meaning the school wasn't paying for you, but you have a ministry that people can pay to that allows you to be able to do that.
Yes. And for 6 years, so last year was the first year I actually made a salary, so I mean, so I was literally volunteering my time with very minimal, but I was just so like focused, and I listened to Spirit saying, do this. So yes, it does help. Donations do drive it. And, I do hold the vision that, that I can train and coach other people to go do it their way. I mean, and so I will say that has been from a level of not having to deal with, and I will use the word bureaucracy, I was able to do what I did at Hexter, but it does require funding to be sustainable and to continue offering this, because schools are more available because funding's so tight. If you could come in as a community partner,
right,
it really did make a huge difference. So thank you for putting that out there.
Yeah, well, my dream as well is that we at Centers for Spiritual Living and other New Thought communities are the peace builders of the world.
Yes, that's why I love connecting with you. Our
One
conversation.
of our centers should have some kind of outreach.
Yes,
Have
exactly.
volunteers go into school and do circles with kids.
Yes, exactly. I see that. So you and I are connected. Reverend Cindy, we are connected. There's work for us.
Are inextricably connected.
Exactly. But I hold that vision with you, and that we are. This is how you do Ernest Holmes: treat and move your feet. All right. And so, because people come to us and they've had, some trauma or difficult, childhoods or life experiences, or just, the human experience. Man, imagine what the world would look like if our children had these skill sets. Like I just keep imagining how different it could be, So with the work that you do and the work that I do and the work that countless others do, that I do imagine with you that Centers for Spiritual Living is that leading edge.
Yeah.
Providing that, coming in, working with city councils, working, with the schools. Because I was also on the site-based decision-making committee. So I was embedded in my community. But this year I was supposed to take the template out, and train other schools and communities. And of course we had a pandemic. So I'm doing it online and walking our educators mindfully and prayerfully through what they're dealing with and our children.
Yeah.
It's very challenging for all of them. So for you and me and for our communities to lift them in prayer, because our kiddos are scared, and our teachers are superheroes. People have no idea what our teachers really do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in full support of them.
Yeah. Well, and I'm in full support of you, and just hope to get lots of people watching and plant some seeds and have people in different spiritual communities start thinking about how they can reach out in very real, tangible ways with our hippie selves.
Hippie girl.
Love and light,
Because I have a teacher who said that she's like, and she is the teacher who took up loving kindness, Miss Katrina Cooper. I mean, she was phenomenal and brought it to her class, but she was like, I was wondering who this hippie chick was. And then all of a sudden the word started getting out because they noticed that children, like there was changes in the way that they were focusing and breathing. They're like, okay, who is this hippie chick? And I welcome skepticism and that doubt, because it's like, yeah, be curious. Be curious, like it's like our teachings, prove it to yourself. And I hear the practices, prove it to yourself. But yeah, I go, tell me something I don't know. I know I'm a hippie.
Well, Veronica, I'm going to ask you to pray us out. And for anybody that's on that, are you going to be able to join us, you think?
Absolutely, yeah. Did you send me a link?
The link will be in the chat, on the Facebook chat, which I think you can access.
I might be late because I'll have to go to Facebook and get it.
I'll have to message it to you. So
send it to me in the private chat,
Yeah. And they can maybe just, whatever, just meet with you a little bit, ask some questions. Maybe, as I said, we've planted some seeds and hopefully they will sprout. Who knows where?
And I love you for all. It's just been so wonderful to connect with you and to understand what you're doing too, Reverend Cindy, because it's just powerful. And so my love and respect to you for, having that vision too, and bringing it to people, and for us to just, really understand, if we really want a world that works for everyone, here's some tools. Let's connect.
Exactly. We've been saying we vision this. Yeah. Now we don't have to know the how, but we actually do know the how.
Exactly. And these are skill sets for everybody. They're mindfulness, they're science-based. Just try them. My favorite thing is when my mother resists and then she sees somebody on TV. I'm like, okay, good. All right, so I'll copy and paste that. So let us pray out. So thank you everyone for being here. And thank you, Reverend Cindy, for what you do for your community, and for Donna and her prayer. But let's just take a moment. And as we breathe into our heart space, the indwelling presence that is God resides in, through, and as each one of us. But how beautiful that we can just pause into this breath, anchor into this moment, aware of the allness and wholeness that is God, this infinite nature that is forever making itself known in, through, and as all of life is indeed the laughter of children in schools, that I fully am aware of the power and the presence of God, but I can see it in the beauty I can hear it in the laughter. I can even find it in the tears, because deep beneath there's that love that is seeking to reveal itself. But that one power that I call God, that is making itself known as my life, Reverend Cindy's life, all of life, your life, everybody. It's all God. And it's in that awareness of the presence of God that makes itself known, that I just absolutely know and affirm that each one of us here is that divine spark with gifts to bring in the world. For a world to work for everyone, we must just simply awaken to this truth of the luminous nature of our life, of the gifts that are God ordained to be shared into the world, to lift this world in kindness and joy and love, because that is the self-givingness of God of life, that is seeking to reveal in the creativity and all those beautiful values of this beautiful spiritual center, that the transformation is the awakening, the understanding that we are spirit in this human realm, but that love can reveal all that is necessary to reveal. And that each one of us supports each other in living our best, fabulous lives. So I give thanks. I give thanks for everyone who is here and listening. I give thanks for everyone who will receive this message. But I give thanks for Reverend Cindy and her community, for the light that is brought to Florida, for the light that is brought to every single person that they encounter. Because we are the place and the space from which the indwelling presence gets to reveal and mirror to other people their own fabulous divinity. So I'm grateful for this time. I'm grateful for the joy and the laughter. I'm grateful that even in the midst of the deepest, darkest challenges, it just takes that one drop of light and that continued collective light just to bring in this huge awareness of the possibilities of a world that truly works for everyone. And so I stand in this possibility. I celebrate the joy. I celebrate the love. And even through the darkest times, I know that I celebrate the light that reveals this. That the power that is God, right here, right now, leads everyone in divine right action, divine order. But how beautiful to be a part of this celebration, how beautiful to be a part of this community, how beautiful for the consciousness that continues to expand and grow from this community as a mirror of light to all. So knowing that this time was ever so fabulous, so grateful for Reverend Cindy and all the community members, I am just so deeply grateful. And knowing that this word is already in the mind of God done, I'm grateful for that aspect of God, the law that simply says, yes, honey, it is done. And knowing that it is so, with the deepest humility and grace that leads the way. I just call it so beautiful, so good, so powerful. And knowing that indeed that it is all God, each one of us expressing the allness and wholeness, I let it be, and the divine activity, and we affirm it together by saying, and so it is.
Woo, we have been to church. And so it is.
I love you. I love you. You're so fabulous. All right, so we're gonna head over to Zoom. Is that what we're doing?
We're gonna head over to Zoom. I'm gonna sign us out here in a little bit. We're gonna do our little offering. And
Okay, I'll wait till that then. I won't exit on the offering.
all right, we'll see you in a little bit, Veronica. Oh my goodness, wasn't that fun? So fun. So it is time for us to share our gifts and tithes, to do our blessing. Oh, what a great time. Let me put the banner across here. All right, so Center for Spiritual Living exists because of the giving of our community, of our spiritual community, and we're just so grateful for anything that you all can give to support the work that we're doing here. I have our affirmation. If you want to make it yours, say it to yourself. It is the nature of life to give of itself. As it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom, it is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am so very grateful. And yes, we are blessed to be a blessing. And if you want to share some of your financial blessing with the Center for Spiritual Living, there is a number scrolling across the bottom of the screen, 352-320-5110. And what you do is send a text message with the number, the amount of money that you would like to donate, and it goes straight into our account. Or you could visit us and donate via PayPal at our website at cslocala.org. And again, we're grateful for any offering that you can provide to the center. We greatly appreciate it. And so I think Oh, there we go. So the last thing there is to do then is our prayer for protection. And then we'll close out and meet over on Zoom for an informal chat with Reverend Veronica. Wasn't she a delight? That was so much fun for me. All right. And this prayer comes from our friends at Unity and James Dillett Freeman. It is the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And I just pray and affirm that all is well in your life this week. And I look forward to gathering with you all next week. Love and blessings to each one of you. Take care.